It is the start of Thanksgiving week, and I hope you and yours have a wonderful holiday together. I hope it's filled with laughter and love and joy. However many people you get together, however many you feel is safe in your family, I hope it's a wonderful time together. My in-laws won't be coming this year, which normally a guy in this situation would say, well, that's fine with me. I actually love my in-laws. They're super fun. They won't be coming, though, because they live in Michigan. Numbers are spiking there. They'd have to drive through Ohio and Pennsylvania just to get here. So we'd rather be safe than sorry. So it'll just be me and my immediate family. And I hope you and yours have a great time together. And I hope you eat a lot and enjoy football and wish for hockey to be back. But we continue the hockey discussion here as we welcome you to the Capitol Building Podcast. I'm the host, Rob Carlin. We are part of Blue Wire Podcast. Just because we're taking some time to relax and spend time with the family doesn't mean your assignment doesn't hold over. I need you to go and download and subscribe, leave a rating, write a review in the Capitol Building Podcast, all helping get the word out. And what I still believe is the most in-depth Capitals podcast you will find anywhere. So, it's obviously a little tough now this time of year to get guests. So I thought we would do, in essence, a mailbag. So I got on my Twitter page at Rob Carlin, TBD, as well as my Facebook page to get some questions in from fans. And we got a handful of them, and we'll go through and answer as many as I possibly can today. And I thank you to anyone who helped participate. But before I get to the questions, one thing I want to bring up is sort of the future of this team. And as we start bridging the Ovi Backstrom era into whatever will be next. And it's that question that is going to be at the central point of what the Caps will be and how long they will continue to be one of the dominant teams in the NHL, because we need to see Evgeny Kuznetsov and Jakub Vrana what their ceiling is. Tom Wilson, we have a pretty good idea of who he is on the ice. He's a good, honest, hard player, night in and night out. The numbers are going up. He's on the top line. I think he's going to continue to get better, but we know what Tom Wilson is. Kuzi, we don't know what that ceiling is. Is the ceiling the 100-point guy that Alan May has been promising for, 3 years running now? He hasn't gotten there yet. He hasn't been a point per game plus player yet in the NHL. He was in the Cup run. And that teased us and got us thinking maybe this is the time when he becomes that guy. But his own words are going to haunt him until he does, or if he ever does become that guy. Because when he said a couple of years ago, I don't want to be that guy night in and night out over the course of a year, that stays with a player. If he says that, but then goes out and has 95 points and a 40-goal season, and a 55 assists or more, well, then you just go Kuzi being Kuzi. Patrick Kane wasn't the perfect guy, but he was a damn near perfect player. So you can take a lot of the things that Patrick Kane did and said. Now, he got in trouble and things followed him off the ice and away from hockey. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about just sort of the guy who he is off the ice. Kuzi's a fun-loving guy who says outrageous things and knows he's saying outrageous things. Don't for a second think that he's not calculated. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's a bright guy. But until or if he ever becomes that guy, those words will haunt him. They will stick with him. It will be a label on him. And he's getting to the point now where this may be who he is. He's good. Don't get me wrong. He's a dazzling player at times. The at times part is the part that bothers Caps fans, and I would imagine the Caps brass and coaching staff. Peter Laviolette's going to try and get that out of him on a night in, night out basis, but other good coaches have tried as well, and he hasn't done it yet. Jakub Vrana, on the other hand, is starting to develop into what we see as a 25 to 30-plus goal scorer. 24 goals 2 years ago, 25 this past season in a shortened season due to COVID. So he probably would have got 30 goals this past year. Didn't get that chance because the games weren't there. The thing with Vrana, and I love Vrana, love him as a guy, one of the hardworking guys. We've talked about this a ton. Always the last guy on the ice after practice, working on his shot, bucket of pucks on the ice, just firing shot after shot after shot. Puts in the work, no doubt about it. always has a smile on his face. Great kid, loves the life that he's leading right now, clearly. What I want to see from him is more consistent stretches, because he's like a lot of streaky goal scorers, or he's like a lot of goal scorers in that he's streaky. Ovi scores so much that he's not even streaky. Yes, he'll go on a lull and then he'll pot a whole bunch. But when you're scoring 50 and 60, like he has 40 plus, 50, 60 even, there's no stretches in that where you're going multiple long stretches in a season. I'm looking at Jacob Vrana's stats here on Hockey Reference from last year. Came out hot, goals in his first 2 games against St. Louis and the Islanders. He had a 3-game point streak to start the season. Then goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 without, scores a goal, then 6, 7, 8. So 1 goal in an 8-game stretch. Not terrible. He's got 3 goals now in the first 11 games of the season. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11. So 3 goals in the first 11 games, scores another goal, and then goes 2 games without. Then 2 goals against Buffalo, a hat trick against Calgary. All right, so again, this is a good month. I am not condemning. Mike Hoffman is a fabulous goal scorer. He's not a fully complete player. When you score 25 to 30 goals, you can forgive a lot of things with Jacob Vrana. And again, I love Jacob Vrana. But after that, he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games without a goal. He had 3 assists in that. Has a really good mid-November stretch where he scored 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 goals in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 game stretch. And that's what he's capable of. That's when things start going well. After that stretch, starting on December 9th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games without a goal. Now, he had a couple assists in there, but that's 10 games. He's your number 2 goal scorer. And again, this is nitpicky stuff. That is nitpicky stuff because he still had 25, would have had 30, got blistering hot after that. A goal in Carolina, 2 goals against San Jose, a goal 2 games later against Philly, a goal the next game against the Devils, nothing against Carolina but an assist, then goals in 3 straight against the Devils, Islanders, and Montreal. That's when he's going, and he's cooking. Then he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games without a goal. Scores a couple, and then as the season ends, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, when the season ended on March 9th after a loss. So again, I love the kid. And I think when you're going to be 24 2 years ago, 25 last year, he's trending towards 30, maybe even 35 goals. So you're going to get paid a lot of money. He's going to get paid a lot of money for that. I just want to see him lessen those runs where, and maybe what bothers me more about those 10-game runs without a goal, the droughts rather, not a run, a drought, sometimes the body language changes. He whiffs on an opportunity, shrugs the shoulders. When he's shrugging the shoulders, that's a stride and a half where he's not full speed. Maybe he loses a board battle. These are nitpicky things, but nitpicky things when put together with other things going on in a game, and all of a sudden you've got a couple of bad shifts in a row and maybe a goal against in that time. So that's one thing that I want to see from Jacob Vrana and Kuzi. I think Kuzi is who he is, but I want to see Jacob Vrana be more consistent, eliminate those long 10-plus game droughts. That's 2 runs during a shortened season with 21 games, a 10-game drought and an 11-game drought. That's a lot of games for a 30-goal scorer, 25 to 30-goal scorer. So that's a couple of things I wanted to get off my chest here as we continue to wait for when the season will potentially begin. But I also want to get to some of the questions here that I got on Twitter and on Facebook. And again, thanks to everyone who got involved and sent in their questions, and I'll do my best to answer them as well as I can. This is from John Schechter on Twitter, @SchechterJ. Who do you see will benefit and thrive the most in Laviolette's system? What's your biggest concern for this team? So that's a 2-part question there from John, and really good questions. I'll start with the second part first. The biggest concern for this team is still the defense and the goalie situation. They loaded up on right-handed defensemen. They brought in Justin Schultz. They brought in Trevor Van Riemsdyk. They still have Jensen. They brought in a couple of role-playing defensemen. But we still have to see them. Look, Justin Schultz has struggled the last couple of years and has had some injuries. So I don't know that – I think it was a good move. I don't know if it was a great move. Time will tell on that. And the breakdowns may have been systematic breakdowns. Maybe, the previous head coach, who was a defensive specialist, and Todd Reardon, his whole staff is back pretty much. So they still need to clean that stuff up. Michael Kempny's out. Brendan Dillon's in on a long-term deal now. Kempny had a ton of penalties, perhaps because of the injury. So, whoa, almost lost my microphone there. Actually, I did. It fell out. So that was weird. Tighten that up here. That's what happens when your kids start playing with this stuff. So Brendan Dillon took a lot of penalties too. It wasn't just a Michael Kempny thing. So the biggest concern, and again, we don't know what Samsonov's going to be as a number one. Look, Henrik Lundqvist came here to mentor and to win the job. He did not come here just strictly to be a backup to Ilya Samsonov, but we don't know what he's going to be. So until that gets worked out, we don't know what's left in Henrik Lundqvist. Still, he's a Hall of Fame goalie, but, what is he now? So those are the biggest concerns for me, which are the concerns at the end of last year too. So that really hasn't changed. Who will you see benefit and thrive the most in Laviolette's system? I mean, that's a good question. That's a really – I'm trying to think off the top of my head here. And you'd hope maybe someone, because he likes his defensemen to activate and move forward. Look, you don't even know if Nick Jensen's going to be on this team next year because of all these right-handed defensemen you brought in. But maybe Laviolette's system plays to Nick Jensen's strength, which is his skating. And maybe that helps him. He did get better as the last season went on. By the end of the year, he was playing his best hockey. Other than maybe the first week or two when he first got to DC, it may have been his best stretch of consistent hockey we saw from him. So maybe the Laviolette system, which really encourages defensemen to move forward and move with the puck, and we saw that for years with how many different defensemen throughout his time in the NHL, maybe that could be an area where Nick Jensen's game finally feels comfortable in his own skin, and maybe the system fits him. Sean Campbell gets involved as well. Assuming the Caps play, are they better than the Caps team that lost in the first round of the playoffs the last 2 years? The Carolina loss didn't bother me as much. It sucked because it was the official end of the Stanley Cup run, and Justin Williams did them in, and it was Game 7, and they blew a lead on home ice. That all sucked, but it was a great series. Carolina was playing really well. And it had been a long year for the Caps. That one didn't bother me as much. This year bothered me. This year, there was something wrong. Something was broken with the Caps. It was broken at the end of the regular season. We hoped that the break would fix it, and that they would come back and be a different team. They were not. They were a worse team. They were a team that you hate to say something like this, but they kind of gave up. They lost to the Islanders without much of a fight, and that was concerning. This core has been through this a lot. So there is a point where you have to look in the mirror and say, how many coaches have been run out by this core? How many times have they fallen short? Maybe there was a disconnect with the coaching staff. Maybe Todd Reardon, quote unquote, lost the room. Time will tell. Peter Laviolette is historically good at changing things and changing things quickly. Years 1 and 2. He's going to have his work cut out for him because something, as my old buddy Chris Miller from NBC Sports Washington used to say, the milk's gone bad. The milk gone bad with the Caps last year. Something stunk in that playoffs. And only time's going to tell if they're a, quote, better team than the team that lost in the first round of the playoffs last year. Again, 2019, the Carolina, great series. 7-game series. Carolina was amazing in what was an unbeatable place in Raleigh. We were there. It was as juiced as any arena I've ever been in. Losing game 7 on home ice sucks. Losing game 7 on home ice when you've got an early lead doubly sucks. But that was the end of what was an incredible year, the best year in Caps franchise history. That one didn't bother me. The milk went bad. Something was sour and stunk against the Islanders. They need to be better all the way through. Whatever it was that was in October and November when they were off to an historically good start, that's the Caps team we hope to see this year. What we saw at the end in January, February, into the beginning of March, and then again in the playoffs, that's got to be worked out of their game. It's got to be gone. It's got to get got, as they said in The Wire. Got to get got, whatever that was. That's Peter Laviolette's job. That's why they brought in Peter Laviolette, the fixer, to fix this team, whatever went wrong there. Mary Bavard on Twitter as well. Should the Caps consider playing Conor McMichael as a wing? Putting the cart a little bit before the horse, because more than likely won't be here next year unless he earns his spot. But I don't want them to bring him up to play third line. That's not going to benefit the kid. I don't know if it benefits him to go back to London if they even play a season or at all, but because he's better than that. But you don't want him playing out of his not just out of his position, out of his role, but third line guy isn't. You're not going to make him a third line player in the NHL, and he's not going to play with the talent to on that line to get the most out of his talent. So it's tough with the Conor McMichael thing. He's playing wing, at least so far early on in this camp for the World Juniors. He's not playing center, or at least last night in their second scrimmage, he was playing a wing, top line wing. So maybe that is something, but where are you putting him in the top 6? You know, you got Ovi, Wilson, Oshie, and Vrana. Those are your wingers in the top 6. And none of those, I mean, and again, even if you put Oshie on the third line to play with Lars, because there's great chemistry there, you can play Conor McMichael on his off wing. You're going to play Vrana on his off wing. I don't know. First off, the kid would have to earn his spot. Is he going to be an NHL player? For sure. Is he going to be a star? Sure feels like it. I don't know about a superstar, but sure feels like he's going to be a productive player in this league, maybe even more so. But they got to see where I know in talking to people within the organization last year, they wanted him to be the successor to Nicholas Backstrom one day, which is to say Kuzi, McMichael, that's your top 2 pair of centers. So I don't know if they feel comfortable moving him to wing to play in the NHL. Is he going to do it in the World Juniors? You know, that's an all-star team of future stars in the NHL. So we'll see what the future holds for Conor McMichael. I'm intrigued as hell. Can't wait to see the kid finally get up here. Ann Groves wrote, I am worried about Michael Kempny since the new injury is on the same leg as the old one. Do you think he will even play again? I mean, you hope he plays again. Be shocked if he didn't. I just don't know if he'll ever be the same player he was in the Cup run. And I don't know if the Cup run was the aberration. Remember, he couldn't crack the Chicago lineup. That's why they got rid of him. Now, Alan May's contention is that the Blackhawks went young, so there was no place for Michael Kempny, but he couldn't crack the lineup. I don't know a coach alive that wouldn't play the best players. Unless your directive from above is play the kids, you're going to play your best players because you're going to get fired if you don't win. He comes here. He becomes the top pair with John Carlson, goes on a magical run. You think he's the top pair left-handed defenseman for the future for the Caps. He gets the injury. He was not the same. Took a lot of penalties. A lot of those penalties because he was out of position. which is not something you'd think from the smooth skating Michael Kempny. So will he play again? Yes. Will he be the same Michael Kempny? I don't know. And I don't know exactly what the real Michael Kempny is. Hard to know because of that original injury. But now that they have Brendan Dillon too, remember at the end of the playoffs last year, he had lost that gig. So it's tough, man. He's a nice guy who walked into an unbelievable situation and is forever a part of Caps history, and his name is forever on that cup. But I don't know that he'll be the same player. Travis sends in on Twitter, do you think the Caps will be able to trade Jensen to get some cap relief? I think TVR, Trevor Van Riemsdyk, could be our 6th D. I agree with that. Now, I just said that Jensen could benefit from the Laviolette system, or he could be traded for cap relief. Either one, because he has not been great since he got here for whatever reason. And you would think they're going to have to move somebody because they've got a gluttony of defensemen. And we haven't even mentioned Martin Fehervary, who right now is on the outside looking in and is left-handed. And if Jonas Siegenthaler still has that third pair because he's so good in the PK, I don't know where Fehervary fits in. And now you got Trevor Van Riemsdyk too. So Jensen, you'd think there's a move coming, and Jensen could be it. A team has to take Jensen in his $2.5 million contract for, I believe, 3 more years now. But that's going to be interesting. He could either benefit the most or be traded. So how's that for straddling the fence on Nick Jensen? Justin Ayers with the Caps signing Henrik Lundqvist. What do you think the plan is for Phoenix Copley? I feel like he consistently gets left out of their goalie plans. He does, because he's a guy. I don't know what else to say about that. He's a guy. If he was that guy, he'd have been that guy already. And a team would have traded for him and made him that guy. He's not. And sometimes you're a tweener. You're not quite an NHL goalie. You're better than an AHL goalie. And maybe he'd be a backup somewhere, and maybe he could even get a stretch. But right now, Phoenix Copley is very much on the outside looking in, because I don't see how he's going to – I mean, Samsonov's the goalie of your future. Henrik Lundqvist is the goalie of right now as far as a backup and potentially starter and mentor to Sammy. And that's it. I mean, Copley's got no place here. Vitek Vanacek has surpassed him. So, yeah, unfortunately – it's like they always say, it ain't show friends, it's show business. And this sports is show business. All right, a couple more questions here. And again, thanks to everyone for sending in their questions and getting involved here on the Capitol Building podcast. This is from my Facebook page. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Quill Nebeker, I hope. 2 good questions here. Based on the Team Canada call-ups, do you have any more of a solid sense of where McMichael and Lapierre are in their development, and any sense of how to evaluate their ceiling? Just dealt with McMichael. Scored a goal in the first exhibition for Team Canada. And that's, exhibition. These aren't even exhibitions. These are scrimmages. These are red-white scrimmages. But he scored a goal there. The ceiling is as high as he can make it. I mean, the way he dominated at London makes you think that he can be a very good to star player in the NHL, especially the current NHL, where the size doesn't matter as much as the speed and the creativity. And the way he dominated in the juniors makes you think that eventually he could be a dominant player in the NHL. He's a first-round draft pick. And so I think the ceiling is what it is for him. Lapierre is too far away, I think, to know. Got off to a great start in the Quebec Major Junior this year, but then they had their season, paused again for COVID. And he's on that. He's at the development camp with McMichael and getting minutes. But I think he's far away. He's still down the road a couple of years, but they like him a lot. His numbers are undeniable. If you go back, if you haven't heard yet, I interviewed his head coach at juniors, and he raved about him. Talked about his leadership too, how kids just flock to him. And he said he has Kuzi-like potential. So I think he's a little further down the road, but the fact that he was invited to this camp for World Juniors lets you know how they feel about him in Canada. And I think it's only a matter of time, and he could be another piece now we're full circle from where I started this, bridging the Ovi, Backstrom, Oshie, Carlson generation to whatever the next generation is going to be. And you hope that Alexiev and Fairvari and Siegenthaler on defense, and then McMichael, Lapierre, Vrana, Kuznetsov take them into the next phase of what they're going to be. Second question here from Quill. You've already commented on the bounty of right shot defenders. So in addition to, we've dealt with this in previous episodes. And the lack of depth in the forward core. Do you get the sense that they're trying to flip defense assets for forwards, trying to shop around in free agency or something else? Surely they're not finished this free agency period. They're going to look. Brian McClellan is not afraid to make a move. He's proven that. If Daniel Sprong can be Brett Connolly, they might not need to. Sprong has been fairly good when given opportunities. Now he's bounced around a lot, and that, obviously that's not great, but so did Connolly. Connolly was a high draft pick and a bust. He was a bust that was closer to being out of the league probably than earning a couple of contracts and big money from Florida. But he got his opportunity with the Caps, took advantage of it, and moved on after winning the Cup. They are hoping that Sprong could be that guy. When given the chance, when given the opportunity to play consistent minutes, maybe the numbers jump up. If that happens, then they've got more than enough right now. We're talking about, can McMichael even crack the lineup? But if Sprong is Connolly and Connolly is Sprong, then you don't have to worry about it. Sprong will give you that scoring balance on the third line. And you hope that Richard Panik, by the way, has a bounce back year. Panik's been a good player in the NHL, like a good solid player in the NHL. He did not have a good solid year for the Caps, but if he can become what he's always been, well, then that cures a lot of problems. So I'm sure they're making calls, but with the flat cap where it is, they don't have much. Now, maybe they trade Jensen, frees up some money, but I don't know that they're not going to bring in anything that's going to be like, whoa, immediate impact. It's going to have to be another Sprong-like guy. I mean, Mike Hoffman ain't walking through that door, they just don't have the cash for it. And then these aren't questions. These are comments here that I thoroughly appreciate and mean the world to me. And I just want to thank them for it. Scotty Herhai, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Scotty, Herhei. Not a question, just wanted to say it's truly a blessing to hear you talking Caps hockey again. To which Ann Curlin Groves wrote, I agree. This has been a really rough stretch for me since August 3rd when I found out my contract was not going to be renewed, when NBC went through some reorganization and a lot of really talented people, including my buddy Michael Jenkins, was let go that day. Now, I finished out the season, so whatever it was, a couple of weeks later. But the relationship I built over the last couple of years with Caps fans has been tremendous. And to hear something like that means a lot. So, Scotty, and thank you. Samuel Ruano, is there a chance that you would still attend morning skates or home games when there's a vaccine available so that fans can still run into you, perhaps take a picture and an autograph? God, I hope so. I hope so, Samuel. I would walk around the arena. So, Alan and I would do the games from our little perch there in the arena. And quite often Alan would go down inside the glass between the benches and be part of the game broadcast with Joe B and Locker. And I'd watch from that perch up there. And whether Alan was up there or not, fans would come and take pictures with us up there, which was awesome. Stop and talk. Kids would come up. We'd let them hold the microphone, take pictures. But I found it important during the intermissions to walk around the arena because I'm a fan. And I just thought it's great for me to meet fans, talk hockey, talk about whatever. But it's also cool. Like if I was walking around the arena and I saw one of the broadcasters, of course I'd be like, hey. And I can't, like, how many times where I just walk by someone, it would be like a little drive-by, like, Rob Garland, you just say hello. A lot of people would stop, you'd take pictures, you'd sign an autograph or two here or there, and you just get to know fans. And then the more I did it, the more is familiar faces. It's like any season ticket holder. You just go and you make friends with the fans around you and the people around you, and I'd see the same faces over and over. And now there's a relationship because something we talked about 2 weeks ago is coming up again. And I can't tell you how many wonderful families I got to meet and get to know a little bit. And, it was my favorite part of the whole thing was getting that connection. For a long time when I did sports in the local news was great. It was a lot of fun. When I did the Redskins beat for NBC Sports, or it was Comcast Sportsnet back then, I hosted any number of shows, the show with B. Mitch, Sports Talk Live, any number of different assignments I did, was all great. But being part of the Caps experience, not just the broadcast team, but the Caps fans experience, I've said this over and over, was the highlight of my career. And for people to take the time to write messages like this on social media, I mean, I just can't tell you. And I read them and I tell my wife about them, and it just means everything. And some of the, I always say, leave a rating. The ratings that people, or the reviews rather, that people have written on the actual podcast page. Man, I'm just going to read a couple of. This podcast is a must for all Caps fans. Rob's approach to sports journalism is that of a fan, as I said, not the typical sports journalism that's out there today. His enthusiasm for sports, and especially the Caps, is very apparent in his work. Look forward to every episode. Tremendous. One more. I'm so happy that Rob Carlin is back with his new podcast. It's the best, I believe, because Rob goes beyond the everyday and covers much more in depth. I love the interviews he's doing with people connected with the team, both past and present. Thank you, Rob. Thank you. I mean, again, this means everything. I gave a lot of my time, a lot of my passion over the 9 years at my old job, certainly the last 3+ when I was just exclusively doing the Caps, and Alan and I we had a good thing going, and it sucks that it's over, but I'm glad that this podcast continues the conversation and continues the relationships I've made with so many Caps fans over the years. So to all of you that got involved, and to all the kind messages on the podcast page, all the reviews, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. And I hope all of you have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your families. I hope everyone is safe and happy and laughing and filled with love as much as we are here in the Carlin household. So again, continue to write those reviews, continue to leave the ratings, continue to subscribe, continue to download each and every episode. We will continue the conversation as well. Thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed the mailbag today. Hopefully we'll have actual hockey to start talking about sooner rather than later. We're looking probably into January before they return to the ice, but the conversation will continue here on the Capitol Building Podcast, part of Blue Wire Podcast. I am Rob Carlin. We will talk again, and let's go Caps.